So they're the light codes that are the angels, and the
Yeah.
demons are like the ones that are a part of the darkness.
Which
Literally, they
which
are.
ones am I seeing? Because now I'm concerned.
You're literally seeing both of them. Like, seriously, you're seeing both of them. And that's it just depends on when you get these visions, right? So a lot of the times, like these huge sigils, they come through
Right.
mostly in the daytime,
Yeah.
but like these tiny little bug ones, they come in during the night, the dark hours.
If you can you if you would hold that up for one more moment, I want to say something to it. So upon first sight, when you see that, guys, I realize it looks like it's just abstract, right? And it doesn't seem like it means much. But when you look at the dots, the way the dots are connected to the right angles, and then those particular swirls that connect them with the dots of each side, and then you see that they are exactly what I drew, very specifically in the same shape and everything. You start to realize that this is not abstract. There's a parallel here that is, to me, staggering. Actually, I might as well bust out. I might as well bust out mine too. But
Yeah.
what do you think these are coming from anyway?
Let me be honest. It's all one and the same thing. They're
Okay.
really not that much different. It's about perception and also
Right.
about what I call, yeah, absolutely.
We-
It's a part of our construct.
Right.
It's a part of our reality. We have literally neglected. So we can see the animals, the plants, but all the
Right.
biological stuff, we can look under a telescope, man. But there's so much more smaller energies, or they're actually quite huge as well. So they're small and they're huge at the same time. And for those of us who are literally connected by, phi energy or whatever you want to call it, an imbalance, we can see both. We can feel them, we can download them, they're a part of our body, they're a part of us, they are literally the micro macro
And
cosmos.
there's like a language here similar to DNA, if I'm not mistaken. After we had a long conversation, I ended up doing the one of the latest videos about ISIS. Well, the serious problem, I should call it. But after hearing you, I read about how the ancient pharaohs used to like consolidate their consciousness one way or another within the king's chamber. We call it the king's chamber. It's not. But and then they would somehow rocket their consciousness into the stars or into the cosmos somehow by there was something to do with the mummification
Virus
process of
viruses They were
well,
using viruses just like they did in Atlantis. So they messed around with viruses because the Egyptians essentially thought that by going viral, they could
yeah,
experience a different, life experience. So they could become the beetle. So essentially, if you look at this book, for example, I think it's written by a biologist. She's really amazing. Let me see if I have it here. She speaks about the processes of becoming the DNA, going viral. And
yeah,
so a lot of the mummification processes really had to do with how they studied viruses, bacteria,
right.
bacteriophage, which is what most of these languages are about. We call them demons or angels or whatever they are, but they're essentially light phages,
I
really.
see.
Yeah.
So once you consolidate your consciousness down to a microcosmic level, that essentially atomic, you're free of weights. You don't have any gravitation anymore, and then you're free to, I guess, for lack of a more specific term, explore the universe. And
Yes.
once you're up there, you're going to want to send this message back to Earth, right?
Absolutely. And you can essentially escape the prison, which is basically the the electromagnetic toroid field. It's the only
Yeah.
way to do it, but it requires a process of knowing how to activate the light phages inside of the cells. So it's it's so amazing. I mean, it's like a science that I think that hasn't really been
Oh,
studied.
I think it was thoroughly studied once upon a time, but at some point in the 1800s to 1920s, they erased all of that all of that study and how to reach those states, which I mean makes you very important. Because well, speaking of which, though, and this live happened because me and her were speaking on the phone. a bit ago, and you were walking me through some of the herbs and particular practices that are required in order to bring your light body to conscious format. So I was like, dude, why am I keeping her all to myself? We need to go live with this. Would you bear repeating at least what were some of the herbal supplements that you had recommended?
So I've been doing these parasite cleanses for like ages, and the things that I've passed out, man, they they look so much like
Like what we were
real
drawing,
demon. Yeah.
right?
And so I formulated these herbs. I did a lot of research. So I've been taking black walnuts, dandelion root. I've been taking clover. I've been taking quite a lot of the bitter herbs that are out there that are very good for cleansing. I've been taking propolis, which is like from the Brazilian bees, to help
Right.
my system, as well as a lot of other candida cleanses and protocols in order to get my body in shape, because my body was completely out of shape for the last 10
Yeah.
years.
And you were talking about the pH levels of having a balance there, and then you were talking about wormwood, which is a
Yeah,
huge coincidence because I just went to the Nature's Roots Apothecary in Washington, Missouri, and I got like a thing of wormwood. I really didn't know why; I just had a really cool name, you know. And
yeah,
I'm a big fan of these pH waters here.
yeah.
I hesitate to say that because it might be all bullshit, but how would you recommend using these herbs? Is tea or am I gonna
Well,
snort them? Like,
y- I use them as herbs. The thing about it is understanding the cycles of the parasites, for example, or of these energies, or whatever anyone wants to call them. It's all perspective, really. I mean, they're operating by the full moon, and it means that they're migrating through the body. They're taking the opportunity when their serotonin levels are really high to
right.
migrate to propagate more parasites, lay their eggs, or whatever inside of the body. So at this point in time, I normally do like a cleanse from between 7 to 10 days before the full moon, as well as intermediate fasting. And trying to keep my mind listening to high vibrational music, of course, and harmonics does help. It's really key to becoming to being in balance. And of course, getting rid of acidic food is also key, like
Def-
wheat.
Why are you looking at me like that? Quit it. What? Okay, so define. Okay, I want to go back to the full moon thing because I want to get that like stapled down. But real quick, define acidic foods because I love cheese. Please don't take
Yeah,
it away from
that's
me.
one of that's it.
Oh, how
It's
could you?
the key really is to come back into balance. And I mean, a lot of people are like, well, you should be alkaline, or you should just go acidic, or whatever. It really, phi really means balance.
Both.
Yeah, it's both.
So, these alkaline foods are obviously going to be vegetables, fruits,
Yeah.
or fruits are acidic though, right?
There are some alkaline fruits that you can obviously take, but I mean, in any case, eating in balance is a good thing. So not
Right.
eating too much of one thing,
Right.
or
How do you
too
feel about so we can pretty much safely get rid of cheese and bread, right? How do you feel about meat?
well. The way that I live is I live according to my blood type, so I eat according to my blood type. I mean,
Of course.
everybody has a different biology, and intuitively, I'm not saying stop eating meats or whatever.
Right.
As long as you're eating it in balance, then you should be fine. And of course, we understand the meat industry is a little bit weird these last days, so I would
I've
say
seen
growing your own chicken might be a thing if you eat meat, or trying to eat as much natural.
for
Yeah,
me
and
for
possible.
me it's strictly babies. That's all I consume when it comes to the meat part of the food chain is human babies. But outside of that, I'm just kidding by the way. Uh so all right, the full moon thing. You do these practices, you said 10 days or so before that new moon hits or the full moon hits. Which was it again?
Yeah, well, it's essentially 7 to 10 days before the full moon period. I'm currently fasting right now, by the way, so I'm, of course, I would look quite a little bit thirsty, but I'm doing intermediate fasting while taking my herbs. So,
I see.
It's constant cleansing of the body for me.
So for
I
you,
mean, as I said, I'm not here to tell someone, okay, go don't eat meats, because I understand that we're all built different biologically, and everybody has different blood type. So
I know a yoga teacher of mine. She's actually allergic to red meats. Like she can't have it. Meanwhile, I know a couple dudes who, if they stop eating meat, they start to get a little sick. So I
yeah,
suppose it really is. It's and everyone's different, and that's
absolutely.
with meditations, yoga, breathing exercises. Is everybody's going to do it different. When I started my spiritual practices years ago, it is literally unrecognizable compared to what it is now because of the augmentations and changes I've made to it that fit me very specifically from then. But what I've lacked doing is syncing up those spiritual practices with celestial
Yeah.
um, activity. And as above, so below, we are deeply connected with that. And which brings me to, I don't even know if we're allowed to say his name, but if we're not, I'll cut it out, snip it later. But you had said that Lord Jacob Rothschild was going to become deceased.
Yeah.
Before he became deceased, and
Yep.
that I woke up and saw that he was dead,
Yep.
I was
Yep.
like, "Get the out of here, dude!" So, like, okay, I want to be like, okay, how do you do that? But but
It's
it's
actually just a sign. I believe everybody can do it. It's simply, I mean, if you read a lot of the ancient texts, it tells you that what has been will be. So what I essentially did was I looked back into the 1800s, and I saw what was happening celestially. At the
right,
same time, there was a comet coming called Devil's Horn comet,
yeah,
and
every
at that time, quite a lot of changes in places like Argentina, a lot of volcanic eruptions, earthquakes, and also it so happened that around that period of time, one of the Rothschilds actually died.
yeah, exactly at the same time as this same
Exactly
comet.
at the same time.
So if I was to throw a dart and guess at this, I would kind of feel like because we are connected to the celestial movements, if something is crossing into our bubble or our collective consciousness and it sees that our world is being governed by a very small percentage of people, it connects with that and it makes adjustments on its behalf, on our behalf. Like, how does it know how to knock out? And for that matter, do you think these higher ups, like the Rothschilds, are in tune with what's happening? Like, do you think they know how?
Absolutely. They have their astrologers. So their astrologers are looking on, obviously they're this is not a it's not a perfect sign. What I have found out is that the astrology has changed, throughout history.
Mm,
For example, the calendar Dendera is totally different from what we have today. The star signs that existed, I read the Babylonian text. Also, they were steered pretty much Saturn and in line with Venus, for their king toppling. So I think he just went back into the ancient annals, compared the timelines, and came up with a formula for what could possibly occur in the
right.
future or in the present.
It's like almost like Rage Against the Machine said. Once you understand the past, you understand the future. They said it
Yep.
differently than that, of course, but I'm trying to make it more astronomical. I had to turn off my internet over there. I think I'm starting to get a little lag on this side. Um, but so these celestial movements, um, I like to look at it as if it's a body itself, like a living organism. And when you talk about these codes being viral, I can't help but compare that also to a living body. Manly P. Hall said that we are the microorganisms living within a much larger creature, the same way that we do within us, like a series of Russian dolls. So
Yeah.
we are so much more connected to the cosmos than I think we give ourselves credit for. And so like whenever you're talking about doing a detox or a cleanse or these herbs, it's almost doing that within us is in a way kind of the same as us getting the codes that we are getting that from these downloads from above, so to not above but so to speak. And in a way that's a bit of a cleansing, the cosmos cleansing itself as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I do follow, I mean, I do read quite a lot about the Essenes as well. I've studied, in depth the book of the Essenes, and that's that's something that has really moved me also to really look more closely at how, our environment or social, structures affect, our bodies, our minds, our spiritual lives, and how our eating habits and eating out of balance, eating out of timelines. I mean, the Ayurvedic medicine as well is very clear about, eating at specific times. And I think that these rules were there
Right,
for us, not it wasn't to punish us in any way or form. It was
right.
just to help us to get to know ourselves and how our biological clock and body operates and functions.
Right. Krigan from Krigan's Dark World was just messaging me the other day, hypothesizing about pork is a sin to eat particular religions, and he was thinking that is most likely derived from a time when we didn't have the technological ability to actually purify it of parasites that came with it, and it would make people sick. So they went ahead and at a deeply religious time they made it a sin, so to speak.
Yeah. And also, I have some friends who study very closely Ayurvedic medicines, and they say that actually the pork meat is very close to the human body, and that this is also one of the reasons why they also forbade us to eat it.
Really, because it's like cannibalism in a way.
Absolutely.
I've seen human beings in mass. They sure seem a lot like pigs. They are
Yeah.
at least just as noisy, it seems. But I mean, not no one in this community, of course, but pretty much everybody else.
Yeah.
Um, so, do you have any particular, say, like the new moon ritual, so to speak? Like, beside you have you do the cleansing 7 to 10 days before these full moons, so to speak. Do you
Yeah.
have prepared for the upcoming eclipse slash comet comet event going on, which I know we're all very excited for?
Well, I'm essentially just focusing on cleansing my body, my mind, sort of working on any fears that I may have because it's quite a chaotic world. There's quite a lot happening, a lot of distractions. So pretty much trying to focus on, my spiritual life and getting my body in tune, and healed, and of course cleanse of the parasites that I have been living with for the last 10, 15 years, some of which can be quite difficult to eliminate. For example, schistosomiasis, which is a difficult parasite to get rid of.
I see. Well, if I mean that one's probably about 10 feet long inside of me right now because I've been I so that sorry to like move the camera all of a sudden. I I moved the camera too late. I got a can sitting over there of peach tea, and as soon as you started saying that, it started moving. It was moving in that direction towards the window. I tried to get over there in time. That's about one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. There's no condensation under it. Ah,
Yeah.
every time we talk, you every time you talk, my brain explodes and then weird shit happens. Like I don't know what you got going on over there, but I feel like you might be one of these real life mystics, you know. But well,
Yeah.
what I wanted to get into eventually within this chat was you are currently in Norway, but
That's
you
right.
that you might not be there for very long. Are we cool with talking about that, or
Yeah, absolutely, we are. We're cool about
okay?
talking about that. Yeah.
So, w- you brought me a lot of, like, I think you bring me a lot of distress and comfort at the same time, simultaneously. And you've got a way of doing that because, okay, I've always had this idea of apocalyptic events as happening all at once, like in the movies. That is apparently just not at all the case, though. This is a very gradual change that you are saying it takes a lot of time, so it can be adjusted to.
Yeah. As long as you're, I mean, if there's no fear, then everything is pretty great. But it's okay to sort of prepare as well.
Yeah, and so I've been meaning to start my own garden and get a shotgun to defend my garden and stuff like that. But it seems as though whenever the water begins to rise, population density might increase,
Yeah.
not all at once, but over the next, I mean, like, how many years do you think?
Well, I don't really want to predict. I don't
Uh,
want to make such a prediction.
yeah,
Of course, there are, based on the past. Of course, it would be easy for me to go, yeah, well, it's probably 18 to 20 years or whatever. But I'm not really that kind of person that enjoys putting a timeline on things,
right,
because things are constantly changing as well with our
right,
consciousness. And the more positive activities we as humanity do, then of course it offsets things in the reality as well. So I don't want to be like, well, put a timestamp on anything, because a lot of people are actually doing good work on
right,
themselves, and good work in society, despite the other aspects of negativity that
right.
that surrounds this
I,
world.
I definitely smile upon that because the way that things are happening in the world right now, there's a lot of people jumping to the gun to be able to want to say, called it, here and there. Whereas having a little bit of poise and hesitation in that regard is smart because, like Ingo Swann said, just by looking into the future, you are going to augment it in certain ways. But
Yeah.
like recently, I posted about Easter Island. The back of the Moai have the same symbols on them as the Vulture Stone in Gobekli Tepe, and the, and then I didn't realize this I guess it was 2017, maybe 2018. The YouTubers told me about it. All those stones have since then been melted, and no one really knows how. They're calling it arson. And this is of great concern to me because by destroying this ancient artwork that's got these, I dare to say, sigils or hieroglyphs, whatever you want to call them, the reliefs on these stones, we are not only erasing a portion of history, but like the vulture stone is a warning.
Yeah.
At the Gobekli Tepe, the vulture stone is a warning of, hey, pay attention. Shit happens upstairs and it affects us down here.
Yep.
And I struggle to imagine who would have it, who would benefit from erasing those warnings to us. Uh, and with that coinciding with this comet, and then the Rothschilds dying every time this very same comet comes through, which seems to be a bit of a protection, and that makes me feel better. But the skeptic in me is slowly, not I shouldn't say slowly, but rapidly leaving my body. All my little skeptic nature is starting to crumble, and that brings a little fear. You
I
know,
mean, I think that humanity hasn't yet understood how powerful we really are. I mean, if all of us came together for the greater good, we could essentially offset quite a lot of the disasters that would potentially be set to come to this
right,
earth or planet. I mean, it's about our consciousness, and if people are living in fears, then they're going to get exactly what they project out there, especially if the collective is running on fear. So I try to to take life, and as positive, in a positive light. Of course, I understand that there are prophecies, and there's doom and gloom, and there's all sort of negative things happening. But if I mean 10 people come together and send out good vibes and positivity in the universe, I mean, it will come back and offset some of the negative stuff.
Right. Like they did that study showing that authenticity radiates from the human body just as powerfully as love does, and that goes to show us that we radiate these things outwardly like a radio signal. I just saw a plants. Whenever a plant is getting eaten, it sends signals out to the corresponding plants around it,
Yeah.
seeming to say goodbye.
Yep.
And that reminds me of what you were saying about, consolidating your consciousness into a microcosmic scale,
Yep.
and firing yourself outwards into the,
Yep.
because plants seem to do it too. Perhaps it's like
Yep.
all living creatures.
Yeah, I mean, we're bombarded with a lot of negative news daily, and I mean that essentially does affect us. We we are consuming negative news, propaganda, all sort of negative, aspects of society, and it's time for us to focus, as a collective, on things that are positive and uplifting, and
Right.
things that hope. And so we need to shift our focus away from all the doom and gloom. You
Right.
know, make a difference. We could essentially bring in a golden age
Yes.
now if we
It's
weren't so
different.
focused on negative stuff.
Right. That is the difference between let's say the grid went out right now, for example. There's like two reactions to it. You could look across the street at your neighbor's garden and
Yeah,
feel like, "Oh, I'm going to sneak in at 3 a.m. and steal the food and then get shot in the face." Or you could be like, "Hey man, where's the hoe? Where's the, let's do I'm here to help you with your garden if, and by not stealing from each other or giving
yeah,
into that fear that the media,
yeah,
propagates against us. Because
yeah,
I think humans come together
yeah.
naturally, but
That's how powerful we are. We are so powerful. They don't want us to know how powerful we really are. When we all come together, we can create such a different world. I mean, we would change everything. We would literally delay all the disasters if we could come together. And it's actually written in the Bible as well, believe it or not. Like when these people in Nineveh literally repented, all the disasters that were set to come against them, literally, it stopped it. This is how powerful humanity really is.
yeah, absolutely. We wouldn't need laws or governments if we all understood that we have the same basic needs. And
Yeah.
like food and water is
Yeah.
a lot more abundant when we all work together for it and share it, as opposed to trying to steal it from each other.
Yep. I
In a
mean,
a disaster could be a beautiful thing.
absolutely. It can bring a whole community of people together to help each other. So it's, I think we all need to just shift our mindsets from the doom and gloom and focus more on building and coming together and creating a golden age, even though, the yogis might say, well, we live in Kali Yuga, but there's a chance, an opportunity to bring in a golden age inside of that Kali Yuga by
Right.
helping each other. Helping one person, helping the other can make a huge difference. And that's what I see.
I wonder if that's the whole point, like literally. Like if you can do what you just said, if a species can do what you just said in the middle of the Kali Yuga, I mean, you've won the game. If
Yeah.
you find peace within the darkest of dark, if you build a light within the dark, it's game over. And
Yeah.
so how do you feel about, and you might not be, what this reminds me of is Dolores Cannon talking about the new Earth, and I'm not subscribed to rest in peace. By the way, I think that she was brilliant, but I do also believe that she was, you know, far fetched when it comes to, I mean, a lot of stuff with aliens and whatnot, but I mean, a lot of what she said makes sense. So she was saying that the earth will split into two, not physically, but psychically. And whenever the earth is split into two, these people won't even realize that a change has happened. What
Yep.
and so, like, how do you feel about that? Is that, like, the kind of the fear mentality versus the
Well, I do believe that if it's like being married. If you can't get along, eventually you will have to be separated.
okay,
So, you
perfect
know,
metaphor.
there are some people who just aren't willing to make a change in their lives. There are just some people who aren't willing to do the work, who aren't willing to accept anything other than being ruled by the government or whatever. So eventually, you know, there will have to be a spiritual split. And
Yeah,
those who have chosen freedom will have to exist. Of course, I'm not saying we're not going to exist in the same world. It's just that, I mean, it's already happening. I live in my home. My neighbor is not spiritual, and we're existing together,
right.
in this world together, in peace essentially. But she's doing her thing, and I'm doing mine, and no one's, getting at each other's throat for that. So, you know,
Okay. No, that 100% makes sense. Because I've been in communicative situations where I'm like, wow, what a beautiful day it is outside. Like I just without even much going on, like this is incredible, right? And as you can see, Dr. Pickles is very
yeah,
much enjoying the
pickles.
beautiful day, but but simultaneously, there's someone standing in the same world as I am who is just bitching about I mean everything and anything that they are missing out on this. So maybe that's what it means with the new earth, is that there are some people who are just not going to catch the drift of the beauty. And
Yep.
by the way, I've been on the other side of that. If I'm at the gas station during a beautiful day and I'm behind someone who's buying scratchy lotteries, well, I'm in the old earth right now because I'm all pissy at them. Meanwhile they're having a great day because they're going to go scratch off, they got their nickel ready, and they're going to go, and then they lose money and they're just happy to lose their money because they have fun with their scratchy lotteries. And because I can't enjoy that pastime, I gotta be mad. I gotta be mad at them for enjoying something that I don't like. And that seems to be, and I have like no patience in that regard, And that so the split doesn't necessarily have to be to where we don't see each other, we
Right.
don't interact, but we are really living in two different worlds.
Absolutely, we are. We're there essentially are so many people are living in two different realities. I mean, there are some who are living in a golden age within themselves. Others are in turmoil, and I think that the ones that are actually experiencing a golden age of spiritual awakening and peace,
Mm,
maybe they could assist the others who aren't feeling the same way, but only if they really want it. Because if
sure.
they don't want to move to that level, then there's nothing you can do about it because they all have their free. So,
Some people will point blank say that they want it, but
mhm,
subconsciously, it's in their actions. It's in their habits. I think that they don't, And I'm trying to find it right now, but where's it at? Here it is. Um, I always butcher her name, but
uh,
she's an uh, Blavatsky, right? So
mm,
I nailed it. I nailed it there. But this book is basically her going into Shambhala, where
yeah,
people who live there, they understand paradise. And she's
yep,
like, how can you live in paradise whenever the world is like this? And they're confused by the way she phrased that. And she admitted at being naive because these people living in Shambhala, so to speak, this book might be fiction, but it's a great allegory. They have found paradise within themselves.
absolutely,
Their external world literally becomes a reflection of that.
yeah.
It's the most beautiful thing I've ever read.
It is beautiful. I'm actually going to India January next year.
Oh, dude.
Uh, yeah,
So,
so really
what?
looking forward to that journey. The Jupiter is in alignment in this most fantastic time, 12-year alignment, where we have these festivities happening in India, and I'm going to join a few friends of mine. Yeah.
There's a, a
Been
lady who told me I went to college in Jupiter recently. Uh, I apologize that if that might be an American joke only, but boys went to Jupiter to get more stupider. That's how the phrase goes. I don't
It's
think we
gonna
have
be awesome.
it's all the rage here in America though. But
It's gonna be there's so much we have to learn also from the I mean, they're the lives. I mean, I'm not saying that, there's perfection in any system, but I think that if we took a little bit of, lessons from each system, then we could really benefit from it all.
yeah, Fritjof Capra, who wrote the Tao of Physics, which is a big classic for everybody on this channel. He also wrote a book called Web of Life, and
Yeah,
it's basically that if human beings can have technology, we can have all these fantastic things. That doesn't go against nature, but if we
no,
follow the example of these little parts of nature that we get to literally cherry pick from, then we can live in harmony in nature and still have tablets and iPhones and
yeah,
YouTube. The drawing that I drew, this was not a vision, by the way. This is me. This is how I felt. So,
wow,
do you mind if I read this out loud?
absolutely. I'd love to hear it.
This is going to be a train wreck to read because when I write these things, it's while I'm either in the middle of it or coming down from it. So it's going to not make any sense, but hopefully the gist will. But while I was in this state, I was getting downloads. And in this particular type of, I don't want to say ayahuasca because only a shaman can make that. And I'm a far ballpark away from anything like that. This was an experiment, right? So, but unlike DMT, it wasn't a vision. It was almost like a English telepathic message. Like I hesitate to say a voice in my head, but that's really how it came to be. It was almost like the codex of language was writ into my brain. And even if I wanted it to stop, there was no stopping it. But message was you can do anything with no materials.
Mm,
Something from nothing is what you are and will continue to be extended. Play the small part and be, oh, play the small part and be there's a period in here for no reason, and be the process, not the result. Moving forward, love and patience is the way, and children are the key. By raising children, we are evolving the entire species up. Vibrations of the space between us is invisible to our eyes, but actually dense with liveliness. Negative energy sticks to our lower vibratory material body. It cannot stick to light. Nothing can stick to light, and that is us at our core. Our silent, still, infinite light at center. Find that place and find instant peace. Go through the negative, not away from it. We can illuminate the dark with only a little bit of light. And then I wrote here, there's like these little symbols and stuff. So I labeled each one. There's an up arrow from the center of my head that says ascension, and that this line is white light, and it's
wow.
barrier at the tightest point of the spiral, but what's on the above side of it? And then this little back and forth line right here, it says rhythmic pendulum swing and balance. This is a 2D representation of a spiral. With each swing it moves closer and closer to center. So that was the idea. I still don't quite fully understand it, but this motion or pendulum back and forth would get tighter and tighter and tighter, represented here, until it was just a straight line. And somehow or another, that was like the key to something, which I think kind of illustrated like the main key was quit worrying about bettering yourself. Do that, but the goal should be to better the species.
Yes, it that's the download I got right here. It's the same thing, bringing up children in balance
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
or raising up. No, raising up
right.
chi. chi, as in chi energy,
Right.
children.
Right. It's CHI. Yeah.
Yeah, and that caused major issues. So, you it's my hope that one day we'll all get back into balance. You
Yeah.
know,
Well, the pendulum has to swing back in the other direction on its own. You can't push it into the center, because when you push it into the center, you're just going to push it back the other direction again accidentally, and it's going to
ab-
become more aggressive. That's when
absolutely.
more aggressive when you push it, but when you let it rest like water, I mean that's the Eastern thought right there. Is like, if you want to clear your mind, quit trying to. What do they say in the Tao Te Ching? Quit trying to pat down the water.
Hmm.
Let it rest on its own, and then, but with a little patience, you'll all of a sudden you'll be able to see through it clearly.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is an ancient anyways. I mean, if you read the Bible, for example, you see that blaming Eve for him eating the apple, and she's doing whatever she's doing, and so that's also been stories that we were told that look, Eve fell, she showed Adam the apple, at it, and then there was war and divide between them, and I think it's not so much blacks against whites or whatever, but it's mostly male and female at odds, and we have a society filled with children,
Right.
who single homes, and saying there's anything wrong, but but now they're only having one image to adhere to.
Right.
They're living with their mom or they're living with their dad in a dysfunctional home, and that creates problems. It's cause and effect. It creates problems for society. It creates problems for spirituality. It creates problems for future incarnations,
Yeah.
and so
If
forth.
out, I would encourage, and I realize everyone's situation is different, but if you are divorced and you formulate a kinship and a co-parenting relationship with your ex, the children benefit so significantly that it's as if you never had a divorce in the first place.
Absolutely.
I've seen the studies and I've seen the stats about children's, their school is affected, their mental just their faculties in general are affected. Sometimes they become comedians, and that's great. That's so there's a silver lining, but what they leave out is the fact that whenever there is peace found between these two parents who realize that they are not compatible in the same household, but they are compatible in separate households, something happens where those children react in a way that you were never. They sense that maturity and that ability to move on and do something different without
Mhm.
there an absolute cataclysm. And everybody knows of my son M, and me and his mother get along absolutely great. Whenever she comes to drop him off, or vice versa, we spend time together. We hang out and we talk and stuff like that. And he sees that. And that's what's very important, is that he's not seeing a rift in communion. All he's seeing is a problem that needed to be sorted out in a difference of living situations, and therefore he understands that everyone lives differently, and sometimes people can't live together. There's
Yeah.
no fight. There's
And
no.
of course, I understand that there are narcissists out there for sure. You
It
know,
does, that's why
we do.
it's different for everybody.
Yeah, it's
Sometimes.
different for everyone. There are narcissists out there, and there's just times when you absolutely cannot come together with a narcissist because it's just not possible. And I'm saying that if you can't do that, but it's important to find maybe a mediator to
Right.
help work on that situation.
I
Yeah,
think oftentimes the best thing is to lay down your sword and not try to correct the person who may or may not be a narcissist, so to speak, because that word's got a lot of definitions. I feel like
yeah,
now, but that is bringing peace to the situation is always the first best step, and they respond to that. No matter, they could be. I'm not speaking of my own personal situation, by the way, but even in the case of psychopaths, these
yeah,
people, they respond to kindness uh, a lot more than they do correction of character.
absolutely.
If the
And I
person.
mean, but looking back at the cause and effect again, a lot of the narcissists came from narcissistic homes, so
Yeah,
there were like generational patterns there as well. So
right,
I mean, it behoves us to actually look at the way we live our lives and try to correct those patterns. If we can't come
right,
together with a narcissistic person, I'm sure there are other means and ways of actually sharing a child
right.
with that person, trying to find peace, the best possible way for the child.
I recognized narcissistic behavior in myself not long ago, as of recently. It was something very small. Uh, I so whenever I finish eating, I always wash my dish when I'm done, and I dry it and I put it away. So I'm never actually producing dishes, so to speak. So when dishes end up in the sink in mass, I I would always be like, well, those are obviously not my dishes. So someone else is responsible for this shit, right? So, but then I realized, wait a second, my son is watching. My son is has eyes and ears, and he sees that I wash my dishes every time I'm done with them, so I don't produce any. But these dishes are in my household. They are everyone's dishes now. So even little bitty things like that echo out and become huge later. And by realizing, you're like, okay, those dishes aren't my fucking problem because I didn't make one of them. It's like, yeah, well, yes, you did because you enjoyed the food and you are part of this little community that you call your household. So you got to own up to those little things that you don't feel like is your responsibility. And that it echoes out. And like a ripple, you take a little bitty pebble and throw it in a pond. It's a little bitty splash. You don't even really see it. But wait a minute, just give it 2 minutes. Guess what? That ripple that came off of that little bitty pebble is 20 feet in diameter now. It's gigantic. It's affecting everything in its vicinity.
Yeah,
It,
absolutely. We literally we affect so much in our lives, our words, our actions, our thoughts,
right.
and we
Thoughts.
thoughts, words, the music we listen to, the music we sing, what we say, how we feel. It has such great impact on our surroundings, on other people, on the universe, on the cosmos, on the plants, on everything. And
Right.
so I think that we're all growing to that point where we will all start to understand how much power we have, how
Yeah.
much impact we have on our environment, on other people, on our own selves, on our partners, on the universe, on the microscopic world, you
Yeah.
know, on the little worms in the earth that we don't even give thought to. That's where we're heading.
We are the worms. The same way that we affect the cells in our bodies with our everyday habits, we're affecting upstairs too in the macrocosm because that ripple doesn't just go in, it goes out. And when you said the word that you said thoughts, we oftentimes forget that we're not affecting the world with our words and actions as much as we are with our thoughts, which is the roots of our words and actions. But even thoughts have a radiance to them. So even if you don't voice those thoughts, whenever you let them run unregulated, they are going to affect things around you in a sort of a vibe. That's why people say it's a vibe. uh
Yeah.
so how do you feel about heavy metal? Okay, because you said even the music we listen to it's like the food we eat
Oh
before the
yeah.
food we eat. So
Well,
I
our
listen.
body is like 80% or maybe 88% water. So
Yes.
music is affecting society. I mean, look at hip hop. I mean, there's hardly any love music anymore. I really miss those days, the
Yeah.
70s love
Well,
music. It's all gone. It's now like kill your neighbor,
right.
rob this one or a bitch it's really
Yeah.
terrible. It's so degrading and so I definitely don't listen to that music. I don't listen to that kind of music and I try to listen to, positive tones, beats and
Right.
stay in a good frame of mind because obviously it affects the psyche.
Yeah,
It affects the subconscious mind, it affects the body, the
right,
emotions. It's detrimental for imagine a person feeling suicidal in some way and they listen to a depressing, song. It will
right.
just they'll spiral
Well,
down.
so to play devil's advocate, just a bit here, there is a bit of catharsis that takes place as far as like releasing energy. I try to keep a balance because I listen to world music and like indie. But there's a band called King 810, and
Yeah.
they're from Flint, Michigan. And if you don't know, and I know you're from Norway, but Flint, Michigan is the butthole of America.
Yeah, I know it is.
So the police there don't even do anything. They'll get killed if they go out into the streets. In Flint, Michigan, if you're walking around in Flint, Michigan, you will see a body somewhere or another. So the singer of King 810 sings about it. And it is the most grotesque music. It's not even death metal or black metal, so to speak. It is by the way, side note, do you Norwegian black metal, is that as prominent as
That's very tough music.
is it there? Is
It's
it there a
really
lot?
coarse.
It's like on the radio over there?
Yeah, and it's harsh. It's quite harsh. Yeah.
Oh, do you guys like play Dimmu Borgir on the radio and shit or
Yeah,
no?
we do. We do. We do. We really do.
So that music is not allowed on the radio over here. They don't allow it. It won't come on the radio.
Really?
Yes, but that's probably why it's become so popular. You know, but like Demu Borgir has a lot of like it's negative toned because it's got the gremlin voice and the
Yeah,
symphony.
it does.
Yeah,
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 it's got that gremlin voice.
yeah. And I love that shit. But it's mostly it's kind of about magic and stuff like that. Whereas King 810 is not that at all. It's just sheer violence and turmoil.
Yeah.
And guilty pleasure alert, I love it. I think it's fantastic. It takes me out of my head for a moment, and I realize that my problems aren't so bad because he talks about being a child in Flint, Michigan, and literally going to war to survive with the other children, and it's true stories, and it's not good, it's not wholesome, but it brings a perspective to your life, uh, and then you sing along in the car, and this is where I struggle because like Michael Jackson recently said that you become what you sing like a mantra.
Yeah, because it's a mantra. That's why. You're programming it into your psyche, in your body, in all of you. It's like you live what you learn.
Yeah.
So it becomes a routine. It becomes everything. I mean, my baby's singing Baby Shark to me, and I'm walking around singing Baby Shark like a mantra, like for 24 hours of the
Right.
day. So yeah, it does affect us.
For me,
Yeah.
it was Wheels on the Bus. Whenever my son, he's gonna kill me for saying this, but when my son was 4, 5 years old, it was Wheels on the Bus, and I'm gonna tell you what, there was a lot of shit going on that bus. I mean, they had everything going. So we never ran out of material because you just turn the corner and that there's something else going. How big was this fucking bus? I mean, I don't know. It was
Yeah, we have to be. I think we need to become conscious of what we allow in our ears, what we even look at on television, for example. It affects.
dude. Yeah. Okay. So what's the news like over there?
Well, Norway is pretty. We do get we do get international news, of course, but it's mostly our local news that matters most.
Okay.
Obviously, it's in Norwegian,
Yeah.
so it's best if it's taken in Norwegian. So yeah.
Hey, by the way, I want to say thank you to all of you guys for the "What Does the Fox Say" song because we just love it, love it over here. That is our favorite.
Yeah.
It's oh yeah, that is like if you're at the gas station and you go, "What does the fox say?" Somebody, if not everyone, is going to start going beep 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 beep. Beep. It's it's literally the most beautiful thing ever. But that's not the music. So that's the thing is we don't allow Norwegian black metal or death metal on our radio in America. But
Yeah,
what's playing on the radio is not better. It's not more wholesome than that. In fact, it might be worse. You
yeah,
know, uh, I love Linkin Park, for
yeah. Linkin
example.
Park is cool.
Love them, but there is suicidal themes throughout it. You
Yep,
know, and you don't even realize how prevalent it is until we lost Chester, who I mean I still get teared up about that because he had so much more to offer. And
yeah. I want to tell you, excuse me, I want to say something to you. Like, seriously, this is no joke. Like, I was listening to this music, right? This song by Backstreet Boys, and
yes,
I had this conscious waking up moment when I was, because he was going, and that makes you
you
larger than
larger
life.
than life.
And I was like, wait, they were saying when we're down, you make it right. Like, this is
Yes,
how powerful we really are idolizing these people, because
yeah,
we're sending them into heights of greatness just by observing them, listening to them, playing their music. And they're going, that makes you larger than life. And I'm
right.
going, whoa,
It's
they're
very
essentially
empowering.
telling us.
Have you seen the music video for that song?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, they're robots.
I'm
Oh,
gonna say this to your audience. You guys are larger than life.
damn right.
Without you, without your observation, without your power, without your energy, they cannot be stars. You're fueling
Yeah,
them.
that is a perfect message right there. And what better than it to come from, be inspired by than the Backstreet Boys,
Yeah.
which are really hated on more than is necessary.
They're telling us like that makes you larger than life, because
Right,
when they're done, when they're down, we're
right.
making them right. And it's like
I
our focus, whatever you focus your energy on, you're literally giving your power to it. You're making it grow. It's like watering a plant every day. So
right.
it's time for us to water ourselves and water our families and water the people around us that we love and the ones that need it the most, and make everybody larger than life.
Yeah, it goes back and forth. That it's a trade. It's a game of ping pong. I don't think a lot of the viewers here even realize what their comments do for me. It is literally incredible. They don't. So I'll get a comment from somebody being like, I was in this place, but then I applied the practices that you put in alchemical transmutation too, for example. And they'll be like, dude, you broke it down in such a way that I never actually understood before, and you make it real. And then it'll be like a month later, they'll be like, dude, my life is literally different now
Mhm.
because of that video, and I want you to know it. And they think that they're thanking me for what I have done. Meanwhile, I'm on the couch like, oh, like, this the construction is killing me. I'm like not feeling too good or whatever. I read that comment and all of a sudden I'm up. I'm
Yeah,
inspired. I'm ready to start editing again. In fact, it's a normal practice of mine, and this is that game of ping pong. Whenever I'll edit a video for about 6 hours straight, right? And it becomes not physically exhausting but toiling, right? Whenever I go to take a break, I'll lay on the couch and I'll scroll through comments, and then I mean 15 minutes I am just lit up and alive.
that's
I
how
mean, you got the
powerful.
one guy on there calling me, the F word, but other than that, like these people are it's so beautiful. They think I'm out here lifting them up, and they're doing exactly the same thing for me, and I see all the hearts right now. They're all
That's
flying.
how wonderful you all are. I mean, it's amazing. And that's what the government, that's what all these elite people don't want you to know. So they would prefer if you all worship them, idolize them, instead of looking in the mirror on your
Right,
and telling yourselves, your family, your loved ones how amazing you are.
right. It's And that's what I was alluding to with the news over here. We don't There is local news that does exist, but it comes on at 6 a.m. and then it shuts off at like probably 6:03. But what the news is over here is literally about 3 straight hours of your neighbor is trying to kill you.
Oh my gosh.
And if you don't believe me, got people in the comments, if you're from America, lay it out. Like, it's for real. It doesn't matter what side. Fox News is, I guess, what's the word for it? Conservative, I think. I don't pay that much attention. CNN is the other opposite of that, whatever that word is. Both of them are owned by the same corporation, and both of them, word after word, is your neighbor is trying to fuck your kids and trying to steal your garage. And it's repetitive over and over and over again. Uh we recently had was recently in 2014 they had a big story. It was called the knockout game, where they put it on the news that people, if you're at the subway or any sort of commute or whatever, people are out here knocking people out for sport and then running, right? That was on the news. It turned out to be completely fabricated, not only false, but it was something that the news they blamed it on. They were running out of material, so they came up
Yeah,
with no, they were it was fear mongering. The knockout game thing that we had huge here in America that everyone was concerned about, talking about I'm going to carry a gun from now on when I go on my commutes because I saw this on the news. It wasn't real. It was
mhm.
fake. Also, on the news not recently, a guy smoked bath salts and then ate someone's face off
Oh my gosh.
all over the news. It was completely fake. It it not only didn't happen, but the person who did get killed in that case, there was a person that lost their marbles. They went insane, but it was because of their pharmaceutical medicines that failed them. They never saw the inside of a smoke shop. They never smoked bath salts, and bath salts, frankly, don't do that. But the media found a way to make it into fear, and then they ran with the story. And then once one news organization started it, the rest of them picked it up. And then
Yeah.
they followed the same script too and said the same
It,
words.
it's the same thing. It's like divide and conquer, you
Yeah.
know. Let's
My
mind.
Sherry says Florida man, and that's all she had to say. But
Oh, let's
that's all,
divide and conquer. Let's just feed the sheep the lies and lead them astray.
right.
It's the same tactic. I mean, here in Norway, it's more centered around the politics. There's always some propaganda with the politics, the politicians, speaking out against the migrants or whatever. And yeah, and they keep fighting each other.
Is it difficult to move to Norway?
No, it wasn't difficult at all. I was living in Scotland, and
I'm
then I
on my
moved
way.
here. Huh?
I'm on my way. I want to see a
No,
fuel.
it's so beautiful here. The water is clean, pure.
I want to see a giant squid. You guys got the giant squids? That's what we're
No, and someone's asking earlier if we do eat shark meat. It's actually whale meat.
oh,
Yeah. So yeah, it's called whale beef or
what kind
whale beef.
what kind of whales?
Well, I'm not sure which ones they take. I try not to think about it
Yeah.
because I don't eat it,
You
but
leave those blue whales alone, okay? You eat the killer whales.
it's yeah. It's
I don't
called whale beef. So yeah, so it's not sharks we eat. There are some small sharks, of course, that they do catch and eat as well in the summer times. But yeah,
I I had calamari at the Japanese dojo the other day, and it was some of the best meat I've ever had. It was awesome. I think calamari is squid, and it was big old chunks of white, really tender meat. And
yeah.
oh, calling it beef almost doesn't work because I mean, is it white meat? The
No,
whale?
it's really red. It's really red. It's like blood red, almost blue,
Okay,
indigo, purple, red.
really?
Yeah,
They're mammals, aren't
very
they?
rich. Yeah, they're mammals. It's very rich meat, and I don't eat it.
You don't eat it?
No,
Oh
no.
man.
There's also elk as well, elk meat, of course. We have great healthcare system as well, which is quite amazing. The Norwegians they're very patriotic. Of course, their system is
Of
really
course.
amazing. um, and crime rate is really relatively low here as well. So it's
Is
very
your
safe.
guys' is your guys' national anthem "Transylvanian Hunger" by Dark Throne? Is that true?
Who told you that?
I made it up.
Yeah. You guys are related to the Norwegians. There's a
Is that
lot of
why?
Norwegians left and went to the States to live. So,
Oh, I see. Oh, yeah, because long before Columbus came here, Vikings were, and
hmm
we're believe it or not, I mean that is common knowledge now against amongst Americans, but they're still not teaching it in schools yet. They've got a long
yeah,
way to go as far as keeping up with it. There's a lot of people, by the way, in the comments correcting me on the
yeah,
numbers I just gave
yeah,
out. Sorry about that, but that does
yeah,
go dynamic it has.
yeah. I think someone's. Let me see here. Um, oh, by the way, I've come up with just to divert a little bit to another topic. The way that I see it is this: parasites are actually running our world.
Yeah, that's by the way, I wanted to jump into that real quick, especially before we run out of time. So, um, I assumed that these guys were my DNA, not literally my DNA. I assumed that they were building my DNA, but I didn't see them actually doing it. They just told me they were.
Yeah. So,
And
what do you think those things are then?
I don't know, but they were mechanical. They were like biomechanical, and they looked. I mean, I'm talking about just like this. I drew it
Yeah.
right when I came back to the.
And do they by any chance look just like, let me see if I can bring that any closer to you, them?
Yeah, yeah. Look it right there.
Do you
And
see what these are?
yes,
These are demons,
I,
apparently.
hold
Okay?
it up. Hold that up one more
Just
time.
a moment. Let me just get it
Oh,
up
sorry.
properly for you. So
This is
these are
this is
the
your. This is freaky. Look at this, guys. I mean, come on. But so as heinous as that is, it led me to this though. This lady took over,
yeah.
and so I don't know, did she save me?
Mother Earth takes over because that's what's going to be needed to cleanse this. And this is why so many people are doing cleanses on their bodies right now because there's an infestation of these things.
Okay, so all right, break it down for us. They're not necessarily who they say they are,
Right.
but to take on that persona is useful to them.
Yeah. So I'm just going to see if I can fold this a little bit so people can actually see. I don't know if people can see this.
Yeah,
Just a moment.
we can see it. Yeah,
If you
there's
see
gonna
this,
there's
right?
gonna be screenshots of all this on Discord and everything later. I'll send them to you.
Right? I don't know
Yeah,
if you see this.
yeah,
But literally, this is what the Gnostics were saying. And when I did the research, I went into the book of Jasher, and it was the same thing Noah was praying about. He was complaining about the spirits of Masema who were trying to kill his sons, and he asked the angel Raphael to grant him the wisdom, the knowledge, the herbs to help to heal him from the
right.
attacks of Masema.
Wow.
Yeah,
So this is something that's been spiritualized over the years,
yeah.
but it might be because they didn't have well, even if they had the scientific terminology that we have today, they still would have spiritualized it because that's the best way to pass the
It's
information.
the best because everything was taught in symbols.
Right,
And now we have lost touch with those symbols, with the ancient symbols. They weren't really words. They were used. There
right.
were symbols right through the ancients, the ancient Egyptian
Yeah,
hieroglyphs or whatever. They were all symbols right back to Babylon, and before that, everything was symbols in Pan, Mu, Lemuria, whatever, Atlantis, all symbols.
right.
So now we're trying to put words to symbols, which had specific meanings.
So, it really connects the science of today to the mythology of yesterday, which is what I mean. I've been screaming all along here with this. I mean, every video seems to have that as a common theme,
Yeah.
and this is literally a smoking gun, point
Yep.
blank example of we call them parasites today. Back then,
Yep.
Gnostics called them archons.
Yes.
Before that, they called them demons.
Demons. The angels called the ancients called them demons. And Noah was try after the flood, a whole lot of them died, but
Yeah,
a few were left behind. And so these were the ones Noah was praying about, asking Raphael to help him,
right,
to, to give him the herbs or whatever knowledge it was that he could then heal his sons.
right,
Yeah, and you know the word demiurge, right? Your urges.
right,
Demiurge, your urge.
right.
So it's the urges, really the urges to eat the wrong thing, drink the wrong thing, see the wrong thing, hear the wrong thing that causes these things to enter into the body. And so, yeah,
Yeah, whenever I learned that the parasites, well, the bacteria, they call them microbes. The microbes in our guts actually dictate the food that we crave.
yeah,
It kind of changed up the game for me to where I realized I needed to pay more attention because the more you give them what they want, the more they reproduce.
yep,
And the more they reproduce, there's more of them craving those very foods to the point to where all of a sudden an apple is like paper to you. It doesn't even have a taste. And you just, you want that Taco Bell or whatever. But once you cleanse yourself or have a fast or manually make yourself have those changes, have the discipline to make
yeah.
those particular changes, those parasites begin to die. You flush
I
them out.
mean, you become a host. You are the host. I mean, one thing that has really caught my eye as well, reading the ancient scriptures is, and the whole host of heaven fell.
Yeah.
And if yeah. you
Wow.
know,
It's almost as if, like, okay, Manly P. Hall in his book How to Understand Your Bible alluded to the idea that the Bible is more about you than it is the events that are taking place within this allegory. And he says that a lot. There's a lot of things. Well, he even compares the Egyptian mythology and the pyramids to being a reflection of the human condition within our place in the universe. And saying that these things that we learn from both the Bibles and the Hermetic laws, the Kabbalion, um, it's all basically essentially about you and your own gnosis about what to do with this vehicle while you've got it. Because
right,
you can figure out how to treat this vehicle while you've got it. Whenever the time comes to exit the vehicle, you'll be in a different mindset, a different psyche to in order to, I guess, take on the next one. Or that part's always confused me, because sometimes it leads to like reincarnation.
yeah, or it can lead to leaving the cycle. I mean, but it depends on the cells, the DNA. You know how pure it is, for example, how pure you've kept your body. All of it has to do with
Right.
regenerate.
If someone is very much pure in the mind, let's say righteousness in activity, so to speak,
But then
but
essentially your body would become purified too.
really, it's like
Yeah, your body would be purified too if your mind is pure.
it's almost like the placebo effect there. And I
Yeah.
don't use that word lightly because people always say, oh, it's just the placebo without
And I'm
realizing.
not just talking about this body, but your cells, your DNA would have to also be pure as well if the mind is pure.
I see. And maybe it works the other way too. If you're having trouble purifying your psyche, a good start would be to purify the physical body, and then it affects
Absolutely.
the other, as above, so
Ab-
below.
I
You
mean,
know,
I literally stopped eating crap many, many years ago, and I haven't had a craving for any of it again. Like,
really.
the craving completely died, and the more I cleansed my body, the less cravings I had, the less need I had to consume, sweets and things like that that I, was normally craving,
See,
especially
just
back
hearing
in
you
the
say
day.
that makes me want a grilled cheese sandwich. So the struggle is real.
But
I
it's all
want
about you. It's all about your journey. And this is why what I'm saying is what works for me will not work for you. It
right,
won't work for everyone because this is my perspective, my
right,
experience. But another person has a different biological makeup, a different pathway, a different journey, and they're gonna have to come home to source in
right,
themselves and
right,
find and listen to their own bodies, their
right.
own intuition, their own inner self, and walk their journeys.
This it kind of reminds me the way it's different from for everybody. And I realize we should. Well, we're gonna wrap this up here in a minute. We're going on 100 minutes. We're killing it here, by the way.
Oh,
Uh, but it reminds me of Larry, and I've said this only once before, and it was on my very first podcast interview ever. But and I exaggerated a bit, but like I went into like a metaphysics shop, right, where they sell the crystals and everything, and there was this like pure dude, Chad guy, and he was all like he'd been working out and meditating and all that stuff, and by all means, that's awesome. But he was like yelling at everybody, like, "Oh, you gotta raise your vibrations." Like, everybody needs to, get on board with this shit. And in his activity, the vibe was a little preachy, right? Meanwhile, the next day I saw a man who had doesn't even know what a metaphysics shop is, doesn't even know about crystals, and his name was Larry, and
yeah.
he runs the cement crew at the construction site. He's got a beer belly, right? And he's eating tacos from the gas station and just loving life. He's telling dirty jokes, and he's like he'll burp like out in the open, and then you just want to hug him. You just want to give him a hug. He loves everybody, and he is just happy as can be. And I remember thinking to myself, who's the Buddha here out of these two individuals? So it goes to show you that mind over matter seems to be a lot more. Bio, you should pay attention to your diet. You should work out. You should do all these things.
Yep.
But when it comes down to it, the
Don't
vibe.
obsess about it.
Right. The vibe, the mindset, and how you project yourself to humanity eventually overrides all of that to where this guy with the beer gut named fucking Larry is the guy who I want to hang out with at the end of the day because he's completely accepting of everybody, and he'll
Yep.
tell you a dirty joke and you'll just have a great night. Whereas this other guy who's got shit figured out, you kind of don't want to share a cab with him
Kind of
because
like what Christ said, huh? The priests were wearing white clothing
right.
and their bodies were like dead men's sepulchers.
Yes. Oh my goodness. It's perfect. In a way, Christ was Larry.
Christ was Larry.
He said, "Come as you are."
Yeah.
Oh, it's a beautiful thing.
So beautiful. And I mean, and that's just the beauty of being yourself, being unique, being
Right.
wonderful, that
Right.
each person gets to live out their truth
Right.
and you just love them.
It's perfect. And I do love Larry. And there's a bunch of guys here in the comments who say, he said, Frank says Larry Christ. So he's getting the idea. All right. Well, actually, on that note, I think that's a perfect stopping point for this chat. And I'm
Yeah.
very glad to have had you on
Thank you
finally.
so much for allowing me to be on your program. I really appreciate it. And for the ones who want me to speak Norwegian, ha det bra means goodbye. Thank
Hi.
you. Thank you for putting up with me.
Oh, we had a great time. Real quick before we go, what is the name of your website?
It's called houseofealing.no.
houseofhealing.no.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna put a link to that in the description, guys. And again, thank you very much to all.